time?
6:58.
6:58. Oh, it's almost late. So I just find you on my phone. There I am. On my phone. Great. Whoops. Okay, good to see you all. Good to see you all coming in. Great. So, I don't know, we're almost into November.
Well, that normally follows October.
Sorry?
It normally follows October.
I have all my Halloween stuff up for you, except I forgot my pumpkin dolls. Oh, bother. Bother, bother.
Where are they?
They're by my featherweight in the kitchen. We're just going to go and get them. They only get an outing once a year, really. Well, actually, they're always out. Always have my pumpkin dolls out. But yeah, good to see you all coming in. Good, good, good. Good to see you. Oh, windy. Great to see you all coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. So, I don't know what the time is. I think we have a minute to go. So, good to see you all coming in. Rich has gone to get my dolls. So this is my Halloween quilt that I bought absolutely years ago, and I thought I am going to finish it this year. It's not perfect, but it's finished. So yeah.
Rosie's a bit scared of them.
They scare the dog, my dolls. Aren't they cute? So Halloween dolls. I'm all Halloween tonight. I like her the best.
Okay, 7 o'clock.
Okay, 7 o'clock. Right. Good to see you all. Okay. So, my name is Deb Canham, and Monday night I do my Facebook Lives with the serger. And tonight, I thought we would do braided handles. I first did the braided handles on my early bags, and I just love the look of them. And we did them on our flat lock purse. I'll show you in a minute. We had the flat lock purse class on Saturday, and you guys did such a great job. They were just fabulous, your purses. And of course we used the braided handle, and I'm just going to show you. This was the flat lock purse, and we used flat lock wave to sew in the zipper, but can you see the handles? That's what we're going to deal with tonight. And we did do it in class, but there's a couple of other things you need to know about them, so I thought we'd cover them tonight, so it's all covered. And let me show you some other times I've used them. You know, the reason I use them is it's so easy, and it's easier than trying to find a purse strap. And I don't want to pay for leather ones. And I have all this stuff in my workroom. I have everything in my workroom, but I do have cording and I have lots of fabric. So this is a little cat purse I did. Did you like the back of it? I always think the back's cute. But again, that braided handle. And I mean, the reason I like them, as I said, they're easy to make. They're easy to find all the stuff for. They're comfy to hold. They're a really nice feel to them. And you can choose your length. And mostly they tie in all the fabrics of your project. Here I have them on another one. These are all serger projects. Obviously I sewed the cat applique on with a sewing machine, not a serger. But see, those handles again. And, oh, let's see this one. So, I did the cat purse first, and everybody said, can you do a dog? So I said, yeah, I can do a dog. So I did this dog, and I took it to a show, and everybody said, can you do an Alsatian? Can you do a poodle? Can you do a Chihuahua? So this is the only dog bag, and I've never, I just can't do them all. But I did this one because I've always wanted a Boston. Never got one, but I've always wanted one. But isn't that cute? But anyway, the point of it is those are the handles again. And you can see I've used different thicknesses of cording. Most of the time I use the thick one. This one is a bit thinner, and this is the dotty bag. It's made on the serger. It's a real fun sew. I'm going to do a class on that because you just sew circles. It's dead easy. You do it with a pin. But see how pretty that handle is? So how do I do them different sizes, and how do they go ahead? So I'm going to show you on the serger. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to do the small ones, which actually aren't that difficult because they fit nicely under the cording foot. And you will need a cording foot. You need all the feet. No good having a serger without feet. So what I'm going to do is turn you around and show you how I did it. It's fast and easy. I say that, watch me mess it up. Right. Just trying to find my little arrow, which is so small I have trouble finding it. There it is. Go. Right, I'm just going to bring you down a wee bit so that you can see. Right. So here we have the machine set up. And as I said to you, I'm using quite a narrow cording. It's a bit less than 1/4 of an inch. And you know, cording is the hardest thing to find. They all use different sizes. It's all different. But anyway, here it is. You can see it's quite small. And the advantage of the cording foot is that it has a groove underneath it. And the idea is you put the cording in there and it stays there. And it does. Unless you pull it out. You know, that's the thing. It wants to stay there. The only way it's going to come out is if you drag it out. So Richard is taking questions for me. So are there any questions, Richard, before I begin?
No.
No.
The lady wants to borrow those two Thanksgiving people in the background. They're all hanging for Thanksgiving, but apart from that, nothing else.
No, we're good. Okay, so you can see I'm just about to get ready to start, and I haven't told you what stitch I'm using. Well, the fun of these handles, let me show you one that I've already stitched. Actually, here it's. The fun of these handles is you're just finishing the edge and laying down colour. So hang on a second, let me find one that I've done. Do you see? So all I've done is just laid down some colour using decorative threads, and this is a 3-thread overlock wide. And I've actually used 12 weight tonight, but normally when I do it, I'll use the heavier 8 weight threads because I prefer the look of them, really. I think they cover a bit better. Oh, I forgot to show you my big bag. Anyway, let me show you a handle where I've used the heavier threads. So here's the heavier threads. See how big and luscious they are? So I'm using 12 weight thread, and I have the thread on my upper looper and my lower looper. And I just have regular thread in the needle. And I'm set up for a 3-thread overlock wide because I'm using a narrow cording. And I have my stitch length on 7.5, my stitch width on 3, and I have my stitch selector on A. And I have my knife up and cutting because it is going to cut. So what I'm going to do, as I said, don't forget to put your cording in and have some cording coming out the back. You don't have to have as much as I've got, goodness. You only need about 4 inches out the back, but it helps to stabilize the foot. Okay, so make sure you have some coming out the back. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold the fabric so that the cording's in the fold, and then just stitch. And I like to try and get my fabrics up closer than that, but I'm not going to fight with it. It will go. And what's going to happen is the cording is going to stay in the groove, and it's your job to make sure it's in the fold. But as far as in the groove, it's there. And remember, when you're using the cording foot, it dictates where you cut. It's not a question of where do I feed it in. Just feed it in and it will cut wherever it cuts. The cording foot dictates. So, and you can change your stitch length, make it longer, make it shorter. It just depends on the look you want. If your stitching doesn't come out 100% perfect because your threads have got caught or something like that, don't redo it because you're going to braid this handle, so you're really not going to see your stitching that much. So I'm just sewing on. Let's have a look at questions. Please share the machine settings again. Thank you. Okay, listen, as far as machine settings and everything like that go, I always write them down for you, and they go in a file. And that file is in the file section on Deb Canham's Serger Sanity Projects. There is no file section on this public page, so I put it in my group, Deb Canham's Serger Sanity Projects, and it always gives you the stitch settings. And remember, your stitch settings may well be different because who knows what thread you're using, or, you know. So I will run through them, of course. My width is 7.5, my stitch length is just 2.5, I would say, and my automatic stitch selector is on A alpha, and I've got the knife up and cutting. So here we have it. I've done this piece, okay? It's actually a bit bumpy, isn't it? I don't know why that was, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It could be because I did something wrong, but I don't know what. Looks nice, that end. Okay, so what I want to do is show you one I did earlier, which of course went perfectly. And here it is. And what you're going to do is you're going to make 3 of these, okay? You're going to make 3. And what happens is you then go to the sewing machine and you sew them together. See how I've sewn them together at one end? And you just lap them up so they're touching each other. And then I'm going to put it under my foot so that it can hold it for me. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to braid it. Now, braiding isn't a strength for me. I always say it's because I didn't have girls. But you're just going to take the outside one in and run it over the other one. So I'm sure you all know how to braid better than I do. So I'm just using the foot to help me. And you can do it tight or loose, it's up to you. You'll find you have your own style, so don't get somebody else to braid half of it for you because it'll look different. But I lay mine flat. Somebody said the other day, do you twist them? And I'd never heard of that, but I don't twist them, I don't think. I just lay them flat. So there we go.
How wide and long is the fabric strip?
How long and wide is the fabric strip? Well, the cording dictates the width, but if I'm doing something like this, I'm going to cut my fabric strip about 1.5 inches. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way down it, but can you see how cute that is? So I cut my fabric strip 1.5 inches and wrap it around the cording. And as far as length, you can do it however long you want your strap. Okay.
Does this method have the same strength as a strap?
Oh yes, it's really strong. It's really, really strong. I love it.
Could you use a wave stitch?
Could you use a wave stitch? You absolutely could. I'm going to bring you back round so I can answer your questions facing me. You absolutely could use any stitch you wanted. You could use a flat lock. You wouldn't flatten it out, but just the flat lock decorative. You could use a wave stitch. I tend to use a 3-thread overlock wide, but you can use any stitch. Remember, it's not going to be seen hugely, so it's just pretty. It's just a bit of colour on the straps, and it finishes the edge of the strap off nicely so that it's not a raw edge. So don't you know, a wave stitch might be a bit overkill, but hey, it might be perfect. It's just whatever suits you. So the fabric strip is as long as you want the strap. And the width of it, I cut those strips 1.5 inch for my thinner cording, and then I braided it together. And you're just going to sew it in. Now, what I didn't cover in class on Saturday, and I just want to cover today, is what when you use those really thicker ones, because somebody sent me I'm just working on changing my machine up. Somebody sent me a picture of the handle they made, and the stitches were a bit uneven. And that happens if your cording is quite thick, okay? And you're trying to use a, if you're using a thick cording and a thick stitch, a wide stitch, okay? Because what happens is the needle goes into the cording. So that makes the stitch uneven. So sometimes when you're using thicker cording, you have to adapt. So how are we going to adapt? Well, what we're going to do is I'm just going to move my threads. What we're going to do is we're going to use a narrow stitch, okay? So if you look at, let me show you this bag, because you've all been excited by this bag. I'm excited by this bag. And this was the bag I was going to teach on the cruise. And you can see it's a big bag, big wide bag. It has lots of outside pockets, has a zipped pocket inside and a regular pocket inside, and it has the straps with the thicker cording, okay, bigger cording. So how do we deal with those? So what you're going to do, just let me check that I've done what I had to do right. I'm going to move you, I'm just going to have a quick look at questions. If I use a heavier cord, would I use the 3-thread narrow? Yep, that's what I'm getting to. If you're using a thicker cord, you need to make a narrow stitch. And you're saying a 3-thread narrow, you could certainly use the 3-thread narrow, but I'm quite tempted to use a rolled as well, because a rolled hem will be less expensive in thread, because I'm only going to have my decorative thread in the upper looper. So that's another consideration. I'm actually going to use a rolled hem. I just need to make sure that I change my settings, which will be, because I'm using a rolled hem, and I don't have this written down, so you could write it down if you want to. I'm going to have my stitch width on 3.5. I'm using the O2 needle, the narrow needle, okay? And I'm going to have my stitch length on the R numbers, number 2, and my stitch selector on D, and I think that's it. So I'm going to have a look at it, and it might be that I want to make my stitch length longer or shorter. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, that's all you're probably going to change. So what I need to do is find my super thick cording. Aha, there it is. Oh, did I show you the super thick cording? So you can use a narrow hem or a rolled hem with the thicker cording. See, that's one I did earlier. And you're just going to treat it in the same way. So I'm going to turn you around. And so the problem you sometimes have when you look at this is, wow, this cording's too thick for that groove. But actually it's not. Just as long as you've got that shape in there, it's not going to go down as well as you might like. You might have a stitch problem, but I never really have. And you just treat it in exactly the same way. But as I said, you're going to use a narrower stitch to compensate for the wider cording. And again, do you remember I told you it's going to cut it where it cuts it? And it might be a good idea to cut it a fraction wider than 1.5 inches just to make it easier. So I've got my cording sticking out the back, and I'm encouraging it along at the beginning. And what I have to do is just keep that thicker cord in the fold. And I'm going to make my stitch length a bit longer, as we'll be here all night. So I have it on rolled, and I have it on D in the stitch selector. I can't remember if I said that. And off you go. And as I said to you, that cording is going to stay there unless you pull it out. It doesn't want to go anywhere else. So I'm going to cut it. And although I have got decorative thread in the lower looper just because I have it set up, you only need to have it in your upper looper, okay? And so there you have it. So that's what you're going to do with the thicker cording. And of course, that relates to using the thicker cording, full stop. You know, if you've bought some cushions and you want to sew some cording in, and it's the thick cording, don't try and do it with a wide stitch, because it can't cope with it. So yes, the cruise bag, it's actually called the, oh, I can't even say it. I'm very deaf tonight, sorry. The Ahoy bag. And it's going to be a class, but it's not, I'm not going to release it properly till January the 1st. And the reason is I get overwhelmed if I have too much on the books, and I'm not planning on doing it till the end of February, beginning of March. So that'll give you plenty of time. I have got all the fabric, because it's such a nightmare getting the fabric. And I have a fabulous red colorway for that too. You can have it in the turquoise, but I have an absolutely stunning red colorway that I can't wait to show you. And that was my prototype, and I'm hoping Donna's coming to visit me this month, and we'll do a practice sew along on it and make sure it's all good to go. So any other questions? Right, I have a question for you guys, and I thought I'd ask it here. And that is, I really enjoy my all-day classes, but I think sometimes it's quite a long day. And I was going to ask you, do you prefer to have one whole day class or two half-day classes? Okay, so if you could type a reply on there. Do you prefer to have one full day or two half-day? I think there's advantages to the half-day. I think it's more time for people to catch up. And for those of you that want to watch it and then sew it, there's time for you to do that and be ready for class the next day. So I just want to ask that question. Our class on Saturday went from 10 till about 5. And I always feel when it goes past the 4 o'clock mark, it makes it quite a long day. So I just wanted to check that with you. So either a whole day or two half days.
They want both.
They want both. Okay, so that was another question. Are there any questions on the straps? I can't recommend the straps enough. I mean, they just tie everything together, all the colors, and I mean, they just look really, really nice. I use them all the time and love them. So yeah, and that is the big bag. That was actually from my cruise that never happened. And I was so excited when I did it. And of course I had to keep it secret. It nearly killed me. But yeah. So let's have a look, see if I've... Oops. Check I haven't got any questions I've missed. Richard, do I have any questions I've missed?
Just want to go through the settings again.
They want to go through the settings. On which one? The rolled hem? Let's do the rolled hem.
Doesn't say. I've got so many.
How do they attach to the bag, somebody said? I sew them. I just sew them on. You can sew them several times, but yes, they just sew on. In the case of this one, they sew into the bag. They're actually sewn into a seam in the bag because I didn't want them to be any other way. And with my Khaleesi bag, same thing. They're sewn. If I pull that forward, you'll see there's an upper panel, a lower panel, and they're sewn in between the two panels. So nice and secure, and you can secure them in. In the case of the cat and dog, not so much. They're sewn into the top like we did with, well, they're sewed into the top, and then the binding is sewn on afterwards. I do it two ways. I'm not sure. It depends which pattern you get. Sometimes I do a pocket. You see, this is one of those times when I'm not going to have a pocket version, am I? No, I haven't got a pocket version. I do have them. I must have lent them to somebody.
Rolled hem recap, please.
Rolled hem, okay. But yes, sometimes I sew them in, and sometimes I put like little square pockets over them and hand stitch them down so you can't see the ends because they're not pretty, okay? You need to cover the ends. When they're sewn like that, most of the time I sew them into the structure of the bag. So you wanted a recap on rolled hem. Rolled hem, 02 needle, regular thread. Stitch width, 3.5. Stitch length, I eventually used a 3. And don't forget, it's 3R, 3 rolled, okay? And then my stitch selector was on D. And I always say rolled with a D, you know, D for rolled, but of course it's at the end of the word. You know how my mind works. Are the strap directions in your serger books? The strap directions are in all the patterns where I use them. That's the only place you'll find them. In the patterns where I use them. And I use them in so many of the patterns. If you have one of my bag patterns, you have the written instructions. But I have given you some notes. So, what stitch to sew braid together? Oh, I just used a sewing machine stitch. It's difficult to do it on the serger because it wants to move away. Just do it on your sewing machine. Secure it on your sewing machine. And when you finish braiding it, I never did finish braiding it, but when you get to the end, of course, you have to secure it again on the sewing machine. Otherwise, it'll go and undo. But yeah, I really love them. I just think they're super smart.
What's the width of the larger cording?
What's the width of the larger cording? Oh, could you just pass me that roll of cording on the table, Richard? because they number them all differently, and is there no number on there?
No, it's about.
No, it's a number on the top. It says
No.
322 832
60216 TT10 33.4.
33.4. That you see, that's it. That's what it is. But I would say it's bigger than 1/4 of an inch. Bigger.
But we do have it at our shop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's always hard. It's T10 33.4, and that's what I'm saying. It never makes any sense. Why it doesn't just say 3/8, 4/8, half an inch, whatever, would be much better. So on the straps, you just stitch the ends when done on sewing machine. Yeah, just stitch. It's just to secure them, and then you're going to sew them into the bag. And 9 times out of 10, I try and sew them into the construction of the bag. Like on this circular one, again, it's sewn into the construction of the bag. It's just these ones that's loose, and I put little pockets over them. And if you get this pattern, it tells you how I do it. Yeah, I think that too. Ev Joy says that Sundays are church and family time. I get that. Is the quilt behind you your pattern? If not, name please. You know, I bought this so long ago, and of course I lost the instructions, but I had already cut it out. So I was okay. So I don't have a name for it. I did the faces a bit differently, but otherwise it's just identical to how they did it. And I just thought it was a fun sew. And I'm sure I told you when we first got locked down that I was determined to learn something while I'm here. And so I've really been working hard on my free motion quilting. And I absolutely love it at times. And I think in some ways I'm getting better. But somebody once said to me, if you make a quilt and you can't spot the mistakes when you're riding on a galloping horse going past it, it's good. And that's all I can say. It's not that good. I'm glad you can't see the free motion quilting. And in the end, I just wanted to get it done because, as I always say to you, getting it finished is everything. So sorry, yes, I don't know what the name is. Number 4, oh, somebody knows things here. Linda says, number 4 cording is 3/8. 3/8. Yeah, that would make sense. It was bigger than 1/4. Yeah. And you'd be surprised, I've got thicker under that cording foot, and of course that is the largest cording foot. There is a smaller cording foot for doing heirloom type stuff. I think that's the P3. This is the P5 if it's a baby lock. So you have the pattern for the cat purse on your site. Will you teach it? I probably won't teach it just because I have so much stuff that I've still got to get through. I have Solaris and Destiny cover. I have so much stuff. You know what I have almost done, and I have seriously enjoyed myself doing it, is I've nearly finished the pattern for the Christmas quilt, and I did that. I've done it as a video class, and it's really super fun because it's just small bits of decorative stitching. So if you mess it up, you just do it again. It's just easy. And I have truly enjoyed doing it. Can't imagine why it's taken me 5 years to get it done again. But I'm sure I will have that done by next week. So, and just to tell you that my website is debcallumstudio.com. And the files for this class, or this live, are in the files section of Deb Callum's Search of Sanity projects. And I think that's about it. So I hope you all have a wonderful week.